Hello, my name is Gabby and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, then welcome to my channel, and today's video is going to be my spoiler-free review for A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I will leave the content warnings for this book down in the description below. There is also an author's note in the front of the book that kind of dives into it as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get right into the book description. So A Song of Wraiths and Ruin is a fantasy that is inspired by West African folklore, and it follows a princess and a refugee who have this growing attraction towards one another, despite being on the course to kill one another. I do want to start off this review talking about our characters. We get a split point of view between both our princess Karina and our refugee Malik. And because I do have less to say about him, I'll go ahead and start with Malik. I started out the story really liking him, but it faded into a neutral stance pretty quickly. As for Karina, the total opposite happened. I started out not really liking her, but mostly staying neutral. But the more that I read, the more that I absolutely fell in love with her, and I really loved and appreciated her character growth and journey. And that's something that I can say for both of them. I really enjoyed the character growth and study just all around. So let's go ahead and talk about this romance, because it was probably what I was looking forward to most going into this book, and this was good. It did work for me. I wouldn't say I'm attached to them, which is what I wanted, but it didn't happen, and that's fine. Like, if it never happened, I would probably be okay, but I did enjoy their scenes together. You could probably tell this by the synopsis, but it is a complex dynamic between the two of them, and I also enjoyed that it does kind of feel like a slow burn, because I've been craving a slow burn romance, and I am so content with this. Let's go ahead and talk about the world next. While this is a fantasy world and I love those aspects about it, the story does also have a lot of real life reflected in and worked into it. As one of our main characters is a refugee who has experienced and experiences discrimination throughout the story. As for the fantasy elements, there is something that I would have liked to see more of, but for the most part I found it all to just be incredibly intriguing, and that made me excited to keep reading, which brings me to the story. I am kind of conflicted about it because my reading slump really destroyed the first half of this book for me. I was so devastated. There was a point where I just didn't care about a majority of what was happening, and I didn't think that I liked either of our characters. I was also reading things that I knew that I liked, but that I just couldn't grasp onto and get into. And I do blame that mostly on my reading slump, but the story did take a few turns here and there that didn't really excite me, even when the reading slump was no longer in the way. And because of all of that, I took a couple of days off from reading, and when I eventually came back to the story, I was good for the most part. I was fully in and fully invested and fully compelled. And once again, Karina's character was a huge part of that for me. There were so many moments where I just could not put this down, and then there were also some dark components to the story, which is something that I always tend to appreciate, and I don't think that I would have liked this as much as I did if the story shied away from that. Mostly because I've been disappointed by books in the past who have shied away from it, but I will not bring them into this. And the last thing that I do want to mention here is the pacing, because even though it did feel a little too slow at times for me, I did really like the pacing. And I also really like the ending, and I'm curious to see where it goes in the next book. And the reason why I bring up the pacing at all is because that I like the way that the story was able to slow down and really capture specific moments. I don't know, I like how long the story is, and I like that it doesn't feel over yet. My rating for this book is a little all over the place, I'm not gonna lie. There were moments where I felt like I was at a 3, and then there were moments where I felt like I was at a 5. And even though there weren't that many moments where I felt like I was in the middle of that, I do think that is where I am going to end up, and I am going to give this book 4 out of 5 stars. And like I said, I am very interested in the sequel. There are characters and places and concepts that I want to see more of and learn about. And I just want to finish the story because naturally it doesn't feel over yet, and because the story feels incomplete, I too also feel incomplete. And I'm just looking forward to seeing where it all goes. Okay, so that is all I have for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and answer the question that'll be around here if you want to do that, and hopefully I will see you here next time. Bye!